We did a network test this time. The backups should all be done by now.
Okay, so we're on. Yeah. So they're gonna record this and save it. Yeah. And then live stream it. But if it runs into problems, they'll just record it and post it. So, I mean, we're not gonna get for sure on sessions. No, I mean, but options and things like that. Well, and that's for not here. Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, you want to give all.
Excuse me. Could I have everyone's attention for a second? Thank you. There were two permits up on the table. One was from the health department, and the other one is from water resources. This was still sitting up here. I apologize for that. I'm gonna put them back on the tables. If anyone would like one now, I can hand them out. All right, two. I apologize. This is for the application for the actual sewer service.
Hey, why don't we wait a minute on passing those out? Because, you know, there's a lot of people talking. Hey, Mike, can you see if there are more people on the well-oiled machine?
Yeah, this is good.
We have the drop tag. Throw the baseball.
All right, I'd like to welcome everyone tonight for the meeting about the Berkshire Heights project, the wastewater treatment plant that's going in. If you have not signed in, please do so. Contact information. If you have any information you want to leave or anything, leave it back by the sign-in, and we'll pick it up at the end of the meeting. So I'm Steve Olich, I'm the Director of Water Resources, and we have quite a few people here that be able to answer questions. I have Mark Citraglia from Environmental Health, and then consulting engineer on the project. We also have Mr. Walter here from the Auditor's Office and Mr. Hitchcock from the Treasurer's Office. They'll be speaking in regards to the assessment and options that are possibly out there for all of us. So with that, I'm not going to talk that much tonight. We've been posting a lot on the web. You've gotten letters and notices and this way. So please remember, let's keep it civil and get to the point on what we're trying to cover here. Although I know you have a lot of questions, we've been fielding them. Mr. Walter's been fielding them, Mr. Hitchcock's been fielding them at their offices. At the end of this meeting, which is being recorded, hopefully we'll be able to come out again with a summary of this meeting to address more concerns. So please make sure you sign in on that sheet like I said. I'm going to, next slide, talk a couple minutes about the project itself and some of the things, the way we're going. But then Mr. Walter and Mr. Hitchcock will speak to you also about options and the assessment process, things like that. And then at the end, we're going to try to take some questions. Mark will be answering some questions after Mr. Hitchcock about the actual tie-ins, when and you do them, what's required. So, you know, this is just, you know your neighborhood better than me, but this is the area that was sewered. The wastewater plant is down on the corner of Auburn and Twing. We have a lift station right about here. Most of all the sewers are gravity except for two homes on Howard. Gravity down to this lift station, which will pump it to the wastewater treatment plant, 50,000 gallon treatment plant. So it's a small plant. We did the best we could on the layout and with the shrubbery, so on and so forth. Actually, we kept a lot of the trees out there. I hope it's not that bad of an eyesore. So, like I said, number of feet here, these are just facts. These slides will be posted on my website.
So where does the golf course tie into?
Golf course isn't tied into this. Wait, I know all about supposedly houses being built on the golf course. To my knowledge, there is no such thing. Maybe one of the other officials could talk to that, but there is. This is designed 50,000. There's no way any new development can tie into this plant. It's just not space for it.
But isn't the clubhouse?
The clubhouse is.
tying into it?
The clubhouse is tying in.
I think that's what they're referring to then.
That was part of the deal when we bought the property where the plant sits, where that burned down house was. Part of the deal was for those 4 buildings to tie
I have
in.
a question. And the reason it's a small plant is because it was only for 113 homes? Is that the
It's
reason?
designed up, they don't design specifically for 113 homes. It's designed for the flow,
I'm
the
sorry,
average
for the
daily
what?
flow.
Low.
Yeah, there are right now 113 homes, but 114 parcels in
What's
the
the
area.
capacity?
Say again?
What is the capacity of that?
50,000 gallons per day.
What she's asking is how many houses would 50,000 gallons be approximately?
It's in the neighborhood of the 113 to about 118.
It's all based on plan flows, design factors. I mean, there's always a percentage extra just in case something occurs, because very often with wastewater treatment plants, well, not very often, almost always, during weather like this with snow melt and rainfall, the sewage flow increases because of inflow and infiltration. So there's always a design factor to have more in. this is right now about where our fundings come from. We had a grant and a loan from the Ohio Public Works Commission, the Ohio Water Development. We've gotten money from, and then from Ohio EPA, the construction loan. Tentatively right now, you're aware of this assessment. We also use the grant. We have capital improvement funds and sewer revenue. I think Mr. Walter will talk to some other opportunities also, but this is what we're looking at as the bi-monthly charge, 6 times a year, the sewer cost.
When you're speaking to the screen and it's very difficult to hear. Could you please address the crowd? It would be helpful. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
I'll take the mic. Usually loud enough. So, as you look at the slide there, we have 3 sources right now that we've been funding this project. The Ohio Public Works Commission, $1 million, $700,000 of it is a loan, $300,000 is a grant. The Ohio Water Development Agency, you'll see that we paid $71,000, and that was for the parcel that the plant sits on, and then planning and design fees, about $570,000, and then through the Ohio EPA, we finance the balance. The DEF is really actually federal monies that are that come through to the Ohio EPA, which is first sit through loans or grants if they're available. The intent is to repay all the loans through the assessment, the possible grants, capital improvement fund that we've been growing, and sewer revenue. There might be other possibilities too that we've spoken to. Once the plant is operational, and let's say 2 years from now, everything's running, and that's $133.52 is what the fee's going to be every 2 months.
Does that include the assessment?
Say again?
No. Does that include the assessment?
No, that has nothing to do with the assessment. Well, we'll talk more about the assessment in a minute. So I'm just giving a broad overview. Next slide. So I didn't put the whole calendar up here because it goes way back to 2013. But as you're aware, some 2 individuals in the subdivision filed in probate court, and then the county appealed the judge's decision, and recently the appeals court reversed the judge's decision, and we moved forward with the assessment because that was starting back at basically at day 1. It added about a year and 4 months to the process. During that time period, though, we were building the plant, putting in the sewers, as you're well aware of. The court's findings did not stop the construction from taking place. Bear in mind that the county's under a findings and orders from the EPA, so that's why we're doing this, why the water department put it in. And then on February 24th, commissioners took action. We did the resolution and levy. And then on today, we're going to be talking about what's coming down the pike here. So if everything would work in a manner that I've been working along, I think but the auditor and the treasurer will add some information. But if everything would go where everyone ties in, everyone would have to be tied in by September 30th. Is that hard, fast date? Not necessarily, but that's the Ohio Administrative Code. Next. Mr. Walter.
Oh, boy. You want to start up that other PowerPoint? Yeah. Well, I want to start out by, I am the county auditor. My name is Chuck. I want to start out by saying I know nothing about sewer plants, other than I know stuff flows downhill, right? That's what I know. So I became involved in this rather late in the game. My office got involved in it late last week. They ran some numbers for your various parcels, and then I became pretty intimate with it last night. So you'll have to forgive these PowerPoints. They're not well done. They're done in the last 24 hours, but I think the idea is there. And I'm trying to convey what I've discovered in the last 24 hours. So this is involving the Berkshire Heights wastewater treatment plant. And next slide, please. So these are the areas affected. You've already talked about them a little bit. If you do a mouse click periodically, that would be great. So there are 113 total parcels. If you keep clicking. There's 18 on Helmet Drive, and we ran the average assessed values. Your taxes are applied to what's called your assessed value. It's a 35% multiplier of your actual value. And I used assessed value because that's what your basis of tax is on. It's not what your house sells for. It's 35% of that value that we record as your actual market value. So if you look, all of the roads that are affected by this plant are roughly the same average assessed value. I think that's relevant, and I think it'll become important here in a little bit. So if you just kind of keep clicking, you'll get all of the roads that are affected. So you can see they all range around the $52,000 assessed value. That number should stick in your head because that's your basis of tax. So there are some options for you. If this were just done today and they said, hey, we're going to assess every property, the assessed amount is $28,000 per parcel. So every one of you would have to either pay $28,000, put it on your tax basis, or pay a part of it and put the remainder on your tax basis. Now don't panic yet. We're looking at other options because I ran the numbers, and when I see a $28,000 assessment on an average assessed value of $52,000, that is unbelievable. I've never in my life witnessed that magnitude of assessment against an assessed value. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened. I've never seen it. So if you were to pay, let's say you had $8,000, you're going to put $8,000 down, we would put $20,000 against your taxes paid out over 30 years, and we would calculate a yearly payment for you. If you put all of it on your assessed value, if you keep clicking, I'm sorry, I'm used to clicking it myself, so.
By all means.
If you did all of it, you would be paying $1,200, roughly $100 a month for this plant. Now, that's added to your current taxes, right? That's also not including any fees to operate the plant. That $133, that's bi-monthly, is that correct?
Yeah, every 2 months.
So you would get another $60 and some change added on top of this. I'm looking at this math and I'm doing it in my head, and I'll tell you something. You could put this on the most expensive real estate in Geauga County for the wealthiest person, and they're going to have heartburn with this. So why the rest of us don't have heartburn with it is yet to be determined. There is a problem with this math. It's not that the math doesn't add up, it's that there's a problem, it's too large. What happens is, when you put that money on your tax value at $1,200 a year, you're gonna pay for it over 30 years. If you do that math, that comes out to $36,600 that you're gonna be paying on a debt of $28,000. So you're paying the difference between those numbers as interest. You're paying 1.85% interest on that money to borrow it.
Over 30 years.
Every year for 30 years, that's correct.
Over 30.
So let's just put this in perspective. All of you, when you do this, are combined in 30 years paying $1 million in nothing but interest.
Can we write the interest off on our income tax?
No, I'm not a tax accountant. I would venture to say no, but I'm not your tax accountant. I think there's other options. I hope you don't have to pay that. Okay, so let me finish, and then I think you will see light perhaps at the end of the tunnel. So the full value of this assessment is really not the $3 million. It's really $4.1 million because you have to add in the interest that you're paying. You're all paying that upcharge. So if you could go to the next screen. So here's the stats that I ran to determine whether or not this was financially feasible. And again, I'm an auditor, right? So I look at numbers, that's what I look at. But common sense does kick in at some point. So if you look, I do what's called the ratio of the assessment to your assessed value. And I averaged it because I didn't run every household. I didn't have time to do 113 houses. But I had Ron, thank God Ron was here. Ron ran every street, and then we averaged it. So yours may be, one house may be a little high, one house may be a little low, but on average, this is what you're going to see. So on Helmet Drive, there are 18 parcels. The ratio of the assessment to the assessed value on all of these exceeds 50% of the value. That's what I said, this doesn't make any sense. You can't assess somebody half of the value of their property. It doesn't work, the math doesn't work. So then I said, well, let's look at this from how much is it gonna increase your average tax bill? Because that's really what we pay for, right? I mean, when you call to complain to Treasurer Hitchcock, because you don't complain to me, you give him the tax money. His problem is, he's got to explain to you where that tax money is going and why it went up or down, right? So this is what I was able to calculate. You can click a couple of times. This is where it gets frightening. Your average tax value is going to increase around 69%. Look, I did a what's called a triennial update 2 years ago, where I have to go around to all the properties in Geauga and I have to revalue your property based on sales. The state helps us determine that number. Well, the word help is kind of a poorly used word. They tell us our target was 11%. We calculated it was actually 10%. I had to raise, on average, everyone's value by 10%, which meant your taxes went up as well. You would believe the number of phone calls I got. If I'm going to raise your taxes 69%, you don't think you're going to be calling me saying, I'm going to be broke, you're driving me out of my house? Of course you are. The math, again, is challenged here. So if we can go to the next screen. You may have to click a couple times. So there is something in place that I think we have to look at this from logic. We have to also look at this from practical standings. Everybody ever hear of the American Rescue Plan, ARPA? Right? You probably read in the paper. And I'm not trying to pass judgment on the value of that plan. What basically happened was the federal government said, to stimulate the economy during COVID, we're going to take federal taxes that you've paid. This is your money. This is not, the government doesn't make money. The government takes your money. And it took your money and it said, we're going to give you back some of your money. And we're going to give it back to you through local governments. And in this case, they gave the county $18 million of your tax money. They're giving it to us in 2 chunks. They already gave us $9 million and some change. And then this year, around August, they're going to give us another $9 million. They split it over 2 years. And they then told us these are the projects that we're going to allow you to spend that money against. And if you don't spend it against those, we're going to take it back. So it's like a grant, but it's a gifted grant, if that makes sense. So one of the things they specify as being permitted under this ARPA plan, I underlined it there. You're killing me here.
No, right?
Is sewers, investment in sewer infrastructure. I mean, again, I'm not a wastewater treatment guy. I'm pretty sure this is called the sewer that you're doing, right? So why wouldn't ARPA? Why wouldn't the ARPA money be available to pay for this project? So I believe it could be used to pay for it. As an auditor, I'm telling you, I have vetted the available uses of this money, and I see no foul in using this money to pay for this project. The other thing is, if it was funded with ARPA money, it would save you a loan. If they just used the money to loan you, if you will, building the plant, and then you just pay back the county with no interest, it would save you almost $1 million.
Why would you loan us the money?
Well, by loaning, I mean rather than you. Well, I'm not done. Let me finish what I'm going to present.
We're not stupid.
What we're saying is, if you were going to give you the money so that rather than you be assessed the value on your taxes.
But pay it back to you with interest. That's correct.
No, what I'm proposing, and I'm not done yet, is you don't pay it back with interest. You pay it back interest-free to the county. That's just an option. I'm just giving you several options. At the end of the day, I'll give you one option I think you'll be happy with, but I have to lead you up there. It's $1 million, basically, of no interest that you will save. What does that do? It cuts your payment from $1,200 to $933 a year. Now, that's, how you look at it, that's $300 and $400 and some change, right? So it's better than nothing, right? But I think you could do more with this ARPA money. There is nothing, if you flip that one screen, there is no reason why any or all of this project couldn't be paid for with ARPA money. There is no restriction on that project. So, you've got 2 edges of the equation. You've got this one over here where no money is going to be used from ARPA. And then you got this side where all the money can be used with ARPA. Going digital on this is not the smart solution. Somebody's got to look at what the people are willing to do to not put all the load on you. Because if they put all the load on you, you're all going to be upside down in your property. So if you go to the next screen. So I'm getting to the good part. So hopefully, sorry, this is dragging on. So if you click a couple times, so here's the downside to not using ARPA money. This is if you pay for it. Here's what will happen. Most, if not all, of your properties are going to go upside down. You're not going to be able to get out from under it, right? You're going to owe more than the property's worth because you're going to owe this assessment. And even if you sell the property, somebody's going to look at it and say, well, what are your taxes? And you're going to say, well, here they are. And they're going to go, huh, I'm not giving you what you're asking for. Your tax bill is enormous. That's a problem, right? It reduces your sale value. The second problem is these assessments by property, and Ron actually ran all 113 of your properties. The assessment ranges in assessed value from 35% is the best case to 79% of the assessed value. This just blows my mind to think of it. It will also do something else, and this is something that we've learned being on the Board of Revision, which is when people complain about their tax value. If we did this, here's what will likely happen to a majority of your properties. You will become cash poor. You'll be paying so much in taxes, you will have to defer maintenance on your property. And what does that do? From my perspective, it reduces your value. Your house value will have to be reduced because if you're not fixing a roof that's leaking, if you're not putting in new windows, new doors, new siding, all of those things that you have to do when things break, what will happen is the value that they'll set your house value to will be reduced. And you may think that's a good thing, except you getting out from under that is going to be the problem, right? Because at some point in time, you're going to all sell your property or pass it on to the next generation. The other thing it does, people don't understand, when somebody over here gets a tax advantage, somebody over here pays more. That's how taxes work. It's a great equalizer. So if your value dropped, that means your taxes of all the other taxes, not the assessment, your general property taxes will proportionately drop. But all of your surrounding property neighbors that aren't on this particular project, they're going to go up. They're going to pay more because it has to be equalized. So that creates an anomaly known as they become tax enhanced. They become risk factors to paying their tax. What it will result in is more forced properties will go to collection, will go to foreclosure. There'll be some forced sales. Some people have to sell just to get out from under their tax burden. These are all bad things. And what it does is it causes other taxing entities to become competitors. What I mean by that is if you're paying $1,200 more a year for your taxes, are you going to vote for a school levy?
No!
A simple no, fine. Are you gonna be able to vote for Chardon's road levy? Are you going to be able to vote for their fire levy? Even though you probably want good fire service, right? I mean, you want good roads, you want all those things. But you're going to say to yourself, I'm paying $1,200 more in taxes. I can't take any more. I can't. So what it does, it drives the economics negative for everyone around you. It doesn't just affect you. This affects everybody. Chardon Township is going to be upside down because they're not going to be able to get you to pass a levy so they can give you the services. And it becomes a vicious spiral. If a mental health levy goes on the ballot for the county, you're going to say, nope, nope, nope. You're going to have to because you're going to be taxed out of your homes. So this is just wrong. If you look at this, the math just doesn't work. I've worked this 3 ways from Tuesday, and I can't see a way through it on the conventional mechanism. If this were a $1 million plant over 500 houses, all the numbers change, and there may be some economics to it. There are no economics to this. So here's what I'm proposing. Go to the next screen. So I am respectfully asking the Board of County Commissioners to please reconsider using ARPA money to fund this project. That's what I'm asking. The reason I'm doing that is because this project completely aligns with the initiatives that the feds have told us the ARPA money should be used for. It says it can be used for sewer infrastructure. This is sewer infrastructure. And what it will do is it will not only preserve your house values, it'll preserve all of your neighboring community values, because you won't have this effect where the schools can't get levies passed, and they all have to justify their levies. Fire will have trouble getting theirs passed, roads will have trouble getting passed. It doesn't contribute to that dilemma. And so I think the economics of this project don't work conventionally. And it's nobody's fault. It's not Steve's fault, it's not the commissioner's fault. The math is the math. The plant cost X to build. But we've got one advantage that we didn't have in 2013. And that's the feds gave us $18 million. Well, there's no better solution to use that money for than to betterment of the community.
Yeah, let's use it.
So,
Where's that money at now?
well, $9 million of it is sitting in the treasury,
Is it
and the
earning
other
any
$9
interest?
million will hit our bank sometime in August.
Is it earning interest?
So it is earning interest in the bank. The money has no appropriations against it, no encumbrances, and no expenditures. So zero of the money has been spent. That's a good
So we
thing.
can apply that money plus the interest.
Well, you don't need the interest if you use that money.
Are we gonna fix the roads too?
Well, I'm not here, I can't do everything. You're killing me. I'll say this to that question. Your odds of getting your roads fixed by your township go up if you don't get burdened with this tax, because your votes will then make more sense, right? Would 113 people probably consider a small increase in their taxes to help pave a road if you're not being burdened with this? I think your odds are better, but I can't, you all decide that when you go to vote. I'm
How
sorry.
did a project of this magnitude make it this far and push to build the structure before they even knew how anybody was paying for
This
it?
is pre-COVID.
But I don't care about when if it was COVID, post-COVID, how do you build a $5.5 million system and not have any clue how you're gonna pay for it?
I can't answer that.
And force the contractors to keep going, and we're still sitting here.
I think Steve did allude to it a little, I wasn't involved in 2013, I was in the auditor then. But I will tell you this, I think because of the federal mandate of having to do sewers, because of some anomalies with the septic, I think the drive to put the plant in was a given. It had to happen.
It had to get done.
Your point is well taken.
I mean, if the
Why
state
wasn't
mandated
this,
it, then the state should-
why wasn't this investigated sooner? Well, I mean, we only got the money last August, so we've only had since last August to do anything with it. The good news is, we got this money, right? That's the good news. And I'm encouraging a reconsideration because of that. You had a question?
Yeah, Chuck, thanks for your presentation, and you painted a very gloomy picture. And
It's supposed to be gloomy. I thought I had a solution.
this is a solution, this is a great solution. However, I don't think, you're just appealing to the board, right?
Yeah,
You're
I
not-
can't,
you
I
have
don't
nothing
control the
to do
money,
with this.
I just account for it.
Right,
Yep.
so.
But I am telling the board,
Can I finish?
Yep.
So the board's responsible for appropriating the funds to this project.
correct.
Okay. So what's the probability of that?
I don't know, is there any commissioners?
Commissioner here? Yeah, but they always come out and said they were always
Hi,
behind,
Jim.
they were always supporting them. And now you're saying, it's in their hands.
I have a question.
They're gonna say the best part of this is for what is good for Geauga County, not just what's good for the Berkshire Heights or whatever.
Well, yeah, and that's a good point.
Yeah.
And I think though, that as I've shown you, I don't think it just affects Berkshire Heights. I
agree with
think
that.
that's a short-term look. I think it's gonna affect all of Chardon Township for sure. And any other ancillary taxing agency. I mean, you all get charged for library on your taxes, right? Geauga Library, I know it's on your tax bill because we do the settlement for it. You get paid, you get charged mental health, you get charged Metzenbaum, you get charged all of those, the engineer, county engineer has a charge. All of those, I think, are affected by this, right? Because you're not gonna wanna vote any of those in. From my view, I wouldn't. I mean,
I have a question back here.
yeah.
Will this also cover the, taking care of, filling our septic tanks up with that limestone and that?
I'm not into it with the project.
No, the lateral tie-in from the house out to the street is responsibility of the homeowner.
So I mean, and that's a really good question, because if you start adding up all of your costs, they're much larger than just $3 million in total, from what I hear, right? You're gonna have bi-weekly or bi-monthly charges, you're gonna have to do those kind of things, so, yes.
Yeah, you said that you've never seen an assessment like this.
Of this size, yeah.
This size and.
Compared to the assessed value, the ratios
Yeah.
are bigger than I've ever seen.
Who was responsible for doing this assessment?
Again, I don't know. How was the value of the assessment determined? By the feds or based on
The
plant
amount
size?
of money?
right?
Now, bear in mind, the project actually is about $42,000 a parcel. We settled anywhere from 30 to 24 and came to 28 is reasonable. The balance of that was gonna be paid out of what I collect, because the water department does not get any tax dollars. It's based on the revenue generated from.
Based on what the auditor is saying, it's not reasonable. Right?
No, it's
Compared to
based on the
compared to
revenue we collect for sewer service and those places that get water service. So a portion of that helps to fund the debt that's not being paid by the assessment.
Yeah,
So-
my opinion is, increasing somebody's taxes 69% is not reasonable. I don't know how else, I can't sugarcoat that.
Sure.
So, when you say assessment, and just educate me a little bit, so $28,000 gets put on your assessment, and then it gets, so you're saying our assessment's gonna go to 53 plus 28, and then it get taxed at that, our tax bill's gonna go
No,
up?
what
do you mean by that?
Okay, well, here's what happens. We take $28,000,
Yeah,
and because you're being charged in order to secure this money,
Right.
1.85%.
I understand.
We add the
Oh.
interest to that 28,000,
I get it.
and then we divide it over yearly payments on your tax bill for
Okay.
30 years.
But
That's how the math
okay, so
works.
what's that got to, I mean, you're just running numbers, I mean.
Right.
You're just throwing $28,000 on our tax bill and divide it out by 30 years.
That's exactly right.
Right, I get that. So when you come up with percentages like, oh, I've never seen 69% increase, you're putting the septic system in for $28,000 plus interest.
Right.
And charging it to us over 30 years.
Yep.
Okay, but you have a solution to that based on this ARPA money.
Right.
And the probability of that being appropriated is up to Jim, is here, he's commissioner?
Yeah, Jim, you want
Can
to,
he
microphone?
address that? That'd be great. I mean, I love your solution, trust me. I think it's a phenomenal solution.
Now, Steve and Jerry Morgan has worked hard on getting these grants and everything else. And the EPA, like, it started in 2012 or 13. I've been commissioner for 3 years and 3 months. But it's something that hasn't been done by the EPA and everything else. But after crunching the numbers, and thank you, Mr. Walter, for this, but I'm also a realtor. And I'm on the BOR, the Board of Revision, so people come and they complain about their taxes and comparables and stuff like that. So if you take another different look at it, is if someone's paying $5,000 a year in taxes, and you have to add $1,200 a year, they'll be yelling and screaming. So that's the numbers equating a little bit from what Chuck explained with all these percentages. But with these new findings, the way Chuck explained this, I'm willing to go back to the commissioners and lobby for some of the ARPA money to ease the pain of the people on this development.
Why
So
only
that's
some of it?
Why not some?
Why not all of it?
Because it's this $18 million that we're going to get. We had to have a percentage for capital improvements, broadband, different infrastructure, and this part of infrastructure. So I'm willing to talk to the other commissioners and open this up a little bit and lobby the best I can to get some money from the ARPA funds to ease the pain. So that's what I can promise you, and full communication. So,
What are you considering infrastructure?
28,113 homes get that money.
in the back,
Get the
is-
money to pay for the ARPA funds for 113 homes at $28,000 a pop. That's the number you gotta go, whatever that adds up to.
It's $3 million.
$3 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 million out of 18.
so
And my question is what do you consider infrastructure?
infrastructure could be roads, bridges. There's other sewer plants in the county. This is supposed to be spread out across the whole county. But
So that money is for the whole county?
yes,
But it's free money.
well, it's all of our money. Yes.
Well, it's money for the federal government, it's our money to the back to the.
If you look at all of Chardon, like, this neighborhood is not really an affluent neighborhood at all. Compared to, like, the rest of Chardon.
Exactly, and $1,200,
So that should be taken into consideration.
yes. $1,200 a year is a lot of money for the value of the houses. I get it.
No, plus the sewer fee.
Plus the sewer fee.
Yeah, which is gonna be used to pay for the project.
Well, that's,
Yeah, that's where you guys are getting the money from too.
I think on a,
Plus.
So you're,
Yeah.
right, you're hitting it twice.
I think on the average,
To pay for that
Well,
project also.
I mean, yeah, but by the same token,
Just have
it's
one.
better than a $42,000 assessment.
Still listen, it's better than
Stupid,
50, but anything's better.
I-
Well, you guys made us put, you guys made us put a septic, how much does a septic system cost on
again?
average?
$25,000.
$25,000, you made us put, all of us put a septic system in. So if I were to put a septic system in, regardless of, forget about this, right? Would my taxes go up? Correct. And they're not gonna go up now either, are they? Or will they?
Not if they get your taxes, well, your taxes won't, but your tax bill will
I
because there's some.
understand the tax bill, I get, it's
Yep.
a loan, all right? So it's
Yep.
no different than where I'm gonna get my money
Your
from.
tax bill is
I
not
know
going up.
you say the tax bill, but it's not, it's a loan on the
But
taxes,
it's-
right?
but it's
My
placed-
taxes aren't going up, I pay $3,200 a year.
No, but I think what you have, there is a connection between your tax bill and this assessment, in that if you don't pay the assessment that's on your tax bill, you can be foreclosed on.
I understand.
Just like you didn't pay your
Right.
taxes.
I get
So
that. Oh, okay.
there is a
I mean,
hard connection.
Thank you for that distinction. I concur with what you're saying.
Yes.
Two questions. One, all the houses, the septic tanks, the bathrooms, they're all about the same location. Does anybody have a ballpark figure of how much it's gonna cost to tie in? Cause I figure it's gonna be really close in price for everybody, as far as, you know.
You know, it depends where the sewer line from your home comes out. Is it
Well,
in the back of the house or is it the front?
Let's say
Vast
it's the
majority
front
are
yard, you know, I live on a house. Front yard, you know, my bathroom's right in front of the house, so you're just going, maybe 75 feet to the top.
Right.
And that's, I'd say that's 80% of the houses in that development.
I would agree. Is there a two-story house?
Yeah, but does anybody have any idea, like a ballpark, $5 grand, 10 grand, 15?
No, the range, you know, right now with inflation and everything, in the last 2 years, the range in the past was anywhere from like 3,500 to 7,500, but now we're looking at, what we best estimate is anywhere from 5 to 10 grand. But again, by law, you're allowed to tie in your own house if you can do
So I
it.
just wanted ballpark. Another thing, has anybody in the county gotten together with some of the people that are on that list to do the work?
There are people.
Well, to say like, if we could give you 15 houses all at once, right? Will you give us a discount, you know?
We've been talking about that.
I know, I brought it up about 3 years ago that we.
That's
tried
something
to
the
do
community
this,
has to
that-
do.
that-
Maybe
well,
your trustees could help out. But it's on private
Are
property.
there any trustees here?
I am, one of them.
Okay, well, I asked about 3 years ago. I don't know that anything's been done.
There are.
Well, that's because the community has to get together, like Steve said.
Okay.
We've been willing to help, but the community has to work together.
I mean, the trustees couldn't just.
No,
talk
it's
to
private
them-
property.
Talk to the construction people that do that and say, we're wondering if you guys give a volume discount. And
Little
if you do,
bit.
how much?
You already know that.
Yes, there are I know of 2 contractors in your neighborhood, and that approached us about it. We said, hey, get some flyers together and approach.
Okay, so I'm not, has anybody got any flyers?
And they, you know, but there's only so much I can do.
Yeah, I understand.
One of those
I agree with
contractors
you.
Yeah,
If,
you know.
if there was one contractor that did all the laterals,
Oh, you're not just worried about
but anyhow, you know, again, some options with payments.
To answer one question, I believe, somebody back there asked, what is considered infrastructure? Wasn't that a question? according to the ARPA plan, infrastructure is a system. So it's not like they would say, oh gee, the pipe is counted, but not the tanks or not the pumps. It's the entire system. So it's an infrastructure of a sewer system.
So what
It's
other
pretty-
infrastructure projects are going on in the county?
Again, I mean, that's would be probably something for the commissioners to address. I'm not involved in that. Yes, sir.
You've gone to the investment, this is what we want to do with that money, you got any okay from them?
They gave us, the feds actually published like a set of guidelines that have, like, I would call them no-brainers. I mean, they're no-brainers, right? If you do these things, yeah, it's approved. Sewer infrastructure is a no-brainer. It's one of those ones where they're not gonna argue with you because it's a sewer plant. If you were doing something like, well, it's not really a sewer plant, but we're gonna do, you know, some water recycling system, that they could have an issue with it. I think this is conventional sewer, right?
Yes.
So I don't see that to be a problem. I'm sorry, ma'am, yes.
All right. So on the 9 million that you used the first time with that ARPA money, you said if they apply that, and I know these aren't exact numbers, but they apply it, the payment then goes, say, from 1,200 to 933, because they're gonna pay it back interest free.
Yeah, that's
So,
if they just avoided the
Does
interest.
the county have to, does the county have to pay the federal government back? Then why do they have to pay the county back? If you're getting that money for, if you're not paying, if that money was given by the taxpayers, all the people here, why do they have to pay the county back?
I totally agree. I just put up examples
Well, then who do I
of, probably the commissioners. I was just putting up options.
I mean,
There's-
no, I'm just,
there's a
I mean,
million
do you see
options.
that, where
I
I'm making
totally
the
understand what you're
connection?
saying.
Can you answer that, Jim?
What was the question?
Yeah, so the question was, back a couple of million slides ago, I made the comment that if, let's just say, instead of securing the money to build the plant, the 3 million, and then charging 1.85% interest, if the county used their ARPA money to secure building the plant and then got reimbursed over 30 years, it would reduce the overall burden by almost $1 million. That was one available option, which I think you pointed out. Well, why just stop there? And that's a good point. The question here is, since it's, and I'm gonna paraphrase, since this is your money to begin with, why would you have to pay it back? Isn't that your question?
The federal government's giving it to jog account.
Correct.
Through this COVID fund. I mean,
Yep.
and I know a little bit with the COVID fund, I don't think any of the other county offices that got COVID money, they didn't pay the county back in their budget, did they?
No, they
Okay,
did not.
so that's just that point.
Yep.
So why should they have to pay back money that you're getting for free? Why can't it go, if it's to the benefit of the taxpayer, why can't it be given
I'll let Jim answer.
to the taxpayer? Sorry, but, you know,
Excellent point.
okay, thank you. And I hope you have the excellent answer.
Well, I don't know. It's- With that, your question is, you know, paying it back or the $18 million and stuff like that. Like, there's federal guidelines, so much for infrastructure, so much for capital improvements.
Right.
What's the other one?
Well, they got,
Well, that is with.
I think everyone has to know, so the guidelines published do not say you have to put this percentage in this category, this percentage, they don't say that. They say, these are the available categories. The commissioners have 100% control over how much of the money is put in any of those categories. So I'm just gonna throw something out. Nothing is stopping the commissioners from saying, all 18 million should go into broadband. They could do that, that's permitted in the fund.
Well, I think they understand that. My question is, why are we paying the county back
I know.
our money? If it was money given to the county through the federal government, we all listened to all that through COVID for years.
Right.
Why are they paying you back?
It's-
To use it, what are you
that's-
gonna use that money for?
I think that's just one of the options that.
I understand that it's one of the options, but that's not answering the question. Why are they?
Why would you?
Why are we paying you back? What are you gonna use the money for when we pay it back?
If it goes in that direction. Right now, it's not a payback, it's ARPA money to help situations like this.
So you're not gonna charge,
So you got
so it would lower it more than.
I just willing to
More
look
they
at it
gave you,
again.
the more we lower.
I guess that's not it. So are they paying it back?
If I could share
Are we
with
paying,
I think Mr. Walter shared some good ideas with us tonight and all that.
I think-
But now we gotta step back and take a look at those ideas and come to some resolutions.
Yes,
Final decision.
the three commissioners. I'm one.
When are we voting again?
Well, we'll revisit, put it back on the
That's gonna
agenda.
be important.
Oh, yeah. At this, tonight, I don't know. In other words, we have to revisit it and go with the, water, or, water fund and see what's going on.
So you got 9 million in August of last year?
Yeah,
It hasn't
in the back.
Okay, let's say everything is hunky-dory, and it works out well, and ARPA's gonna pay it off, our taxes aren't gonna go up $28,000 and all. Let's just say everything is hunky-dory. We will still have to pay the $133.52 bi-monthly sewer bill. Yeah, right? Okay.
I think the average bill is anywhere between $60 and $70 a month for sewer. I live in Burton, and that's what I pay, about $65 to $70.
Right.
Based on the flow coming through the
Okay,
pipe.
but $65 per month, the budget, is a lot easier for these people that are living in the neighborhood that are living on Social Security and don't have money to either buy medicine or buy food. Now you're throwing this other tax burden on top of them, and then the bi-monthly sewer bill. I just wanted to know if the ARPA funds will work out where we don't have our tax assessment go up, if we will still have to pay the $133, $65, $70 a month, let's say. You know what I mean? It's so.
I don't have an answer for that.
Mr. Auditor,
Yes.
if we get use voted by you for the project, how much will you assess our homes?
Should you say that question again?
How much will you assess our homes
If what happens,
if we use, funds?
you wouldn't be assessed at all.
You're sure?
Unless I'm missing something in the math I got.
You're the auditor.
Yeah, according to what I'm reading, I looked at the $3 million that they're putting on your assessment. Those are the numbers provided to me last week, Thursday. If they used ARPA money to pay that $3 million, which is a permitted use of ARPA money, I would be asked to put nothing on your assessed value.
What about when the homes get reassessed?
Well, I mean, it doesn't change, look, it doesn't change your tax burden in general. You're still gonna be paying for roads that you're doing now. We're not doing a zero tax plan. I'm considering this new assessment.
So how much will our assessment go up because we have now sewers on the tax?
Oh, you mean your tax value? Your tax value, I have not found any evidence to suggest that when you go to a sewer, your value of your house goes up.
Really?
No, there is no, it's like paving your driveway. What it does do, here's what it does do. It makes your home more marketable. That's what it does do. But your value doesn't necessarily go up instantaneously.
And that is recorded,
Yeah?
and we will all get a copy of that.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. Your house will change with the normal triennial and sexennial readjustments. But we don't have a line item that says sewer, add $1,500 to your house. There is no line item for that. What does change, it's like if you have a gravel driveway and you pave it, your house value does not change. No, not for paving a driveway. It does if you add a bathroom, if you add a bedroom, then it goes up, you add square footage. But if you hardscape or put in paved driveway, your value does not change. There's no incremental change. So I mean, those are standard independent appraisers that say what changes your value overall. And the assessment of a sewer has no line item to it. There's no switch that says we're going to charge you more money.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Chris Hitchcock, and I'm the tax guy. I've only been doing this for 23 years. And nobody will run against me because I'm so intimidating, I guess. But I want you to know how lucky we are to have Jim Dvorak here, listening to everybody, because he is your advocate. We need him to go back to the county commissioners and request a special evening meeting so you all can attend. That's really important. Your being here is a sign that you care. It's not about the money, it's about your homes. That is the most important asset we all own. So I would encourage you to be very appreciative that Jim Dvorak is here and ask him to take that message back to his fellow commissioners, and they have a special session that you can attend. That's one. Two, somebody has put out the rumor that special assessments are not subject to foreclosure. They are wrong. This is what my office does in conjunction with the county prosecutor. If someone does not pay their special assessment, it's a royal pain in the neck, but we will eventually foreclose. It takes about 3 years because the judicial process is so slow, but it is very deliberate. But make no mistake, an assessment is the equivalent of a tax, and the penalties are horrendous. Everybody knows the first penalty is a 10% penalty on the payment that you missed. That's huge. It should be illegal, but it's in the Ohio Revised Code. I and my fellow electeds are all sworn to Ohio to uphold the Ohio Revised Code and the Ohio Constitution and the US Constitution. So we're all gonna do our job, but we need to be sure we thank Mr. Dvorak and encourage him to get his fellow commissioners to hold a special meeting so you all can attend. You are driving this boat, not the EPA, not the Department of Health, Water Resources. You guys are driving. Thanks very much.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Hitchcock, appreciate it. And I want to thank Mr. Walden for being here tonight on short notice also. I think they presented some options we have that we're going to have to go back and visit. Well, next slide. Let's go back.
To yours?
Yeah, to mine's short.
Okay, bear with me.
No, I'm not leaving here tonight until everyone has their questions answered to some degree. Okay, at this point, Mark here is representing environmental health. Once we get beyond what was discussed by Mr. Walden and Mr. Hitchcock, and the time comes that we will tie in, this is where their office becomes involved.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, once the tie-in gets ready to go, and after your 6-month period comes in, then things are going to be turned over to the health department. And basically, there's some rules in the Ohio Revised Code that kind of talks about what happens when sewers become available. So when sewers become available, you must tie in. So if somebody's got a home that's close to where this new sewer system went in, and they need to replace their septic system, if they're allowed to tie in, after all these homes are tied in, you'll make them tie in. If they can't tie in, they won't have to.
Can only tie in with the capacity.
With the capacity, so we go back to talking to them. So, first come, first serve is what's in the findings and orders by the EPA. So our job is to make sure when we ask somebody or tell somebody that we tie in, we have to follow the findings and orders that have already been established. We cannot overrule those things, okay? So basically what's gonna happen is after 6 months, after the 6 month goes, we're gonna get a list of the people that may not have not tied in yet, and basically we're gonna get this, we're gonna give you a letter that says, hey, you have 30 days to tie in. If you still don't tie in after that 6 months, we'll follow our regular administrative procedures where you'll be given a letter to sign up for an administrative hearing. You'll come to the administrative hearing and we'll negotiate and try to figure out, okay, what's a time that you can tie in, okay? We settle on an agreement of, hey, it's gonna take X long for you to tie in. Then after that, if you choose not to do it, then we have no other choice but really to forward that over to the prosecutor. We don't want to do that, but that is our procedure. Okay, that's good, yep. So, as far as what your responsibility is there is to get the sewer lines installed. You'll have 6 months to, get this done. You're gonna be responsible for that. As far as what with the health department here, you guys are responsible for pumping and abandoning your sewage treatment system.
What's that mean?
Pumping has to be done by a certified pumper. They have to be registered with the state of Ohio. Crushing and abandoning that tank does not have to be done by a certified registered sewage provider. So it can be done by anybody as long as you follow the procedures and the rules. Okay? Go to the next one. So abandonment, basically when you have to abandon the tank, you're gonna have to fully collapse it, break the top, collapse the side, or you can fill it with some sort of inert material. You could do grout, you could do gravel, but it's gotta be kind of watertight to fill it up. So those are your options for abandonment. There is no permit fee by Geauga Public Health for abandoning your tank, and there is no inspection or anything required. We have a list of registered septic installers on our website there. You can go there, you can get the people that you want to pump your tank. Once they pump your tank, they'll supply us with a pumping form that says, hey, your tank has been pumped, it's ready to go. If you use a certified septic installer to abandon your tank, abandon your tank, they have forms available which they know to print out and say, hey, we abandoned your septic tank. If you choose to use somebody who's not a registered service provider, I have the link up here and I left some pages in the back there that you can use to fill out and complete the forms to say, hey, my tank was abandoned. So basically what we're gonna need from you is the pumping receipt and then a form that says my tank was crushed and abandoned. And that's pretty much all we will need from you.
Can we pump it into the new system?
We're gonna take you to a certain regular site.
See if it works. It works for the system.
How about those sand filter boxes?
So if you have something that's got a sand filter, or say you have one of these NPDS systems, you know, that got components on them, my recommendation with those NPDS things would be to contact a service provider, because there's some parts in there that you just don't want to destroy. You know, there's aerators, there's control boxes. With those subsurface sand filters, you may have to go to somebody a little bit different. They're going to determine if that sand needs to go to a special landfill or not. So if you have one of those big subsurface, they'll break it open and get rid of the sand. But you could take that sand and fill your tank. So, you know, because your tank is going into that ground, you can take the concrete, you can, you know, use the stuff that you have available on
Yeah,
site.
the ditch from the lateral can be used that.
Right.
where that is.
Yes.
So, you said that the homeowner can abandon the tank and install the pipe?
So I'm.
Yeah, by law, the
yes.
homeowner,
Okay, where does the homeowner get the piping from and make sure it's the correct piping that, you know, corresponds with the system?
you could contact my office, I mean,
Okay.
it's standard,
Standard,
piping.
okay.
Is there any kind of inspection to the
Yes.
tank after it's?
For the tie-in?
What'll happen is when the trench is dug and the base material put in and the pipes laid, before you close the ditch will come out, one of my inspectors will come out and look at it and say, go ahead and
Is
close
there
it.
someplace that's, any kind of like information of how it's to be done, like you were saying?
Yes, I'll put that on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, we have all that. Really, we got a lot to think about now, after the meeting, at least my office, working with, the commissioners and sanitary.
When you're tie-in, what are you gonna be doing? My mom had to do this a long time ago, you're gonna do a dye test. So just let them know that you're dropping something in and you're gonna make sure that that blue dye comes to the sewer system. That's how you check to make sure nobody's bypassing stuff. So just be aware of that.
Well, we should be able to do that visually, because all the tie-ins are marked on the properties now. We actually didn't bury them too deep, so it's easier to tie in. So from that point in your front yard to wherever your foundation, the line comes out, we'll inspect to see that it's done right. I don't think we died at that moment.
No, it's a new system.
No, and don't tie any downspouts in, and don't, sump pumps or anything else. Questions?
Yeah, what are we to do if our connection is lower than your main out on the road?
There are only two properties right now that have that issue. We purchased the grinder pumps for those two properties to put them in there at the end of Howard. Other than that, every lateral should be where it needs to be to have gravity flow.
How do you know it's where it needs to be? Did you go around and?
Yeah, we did.
Did you go around and stick people's connections to see where?
We
the
walked
hole was?
we walked around the houses, yeah, absolutely.
Mine in the front of the house, the main is only 6 feet deep. And I'm at the lower end.
Additionally, when we started this project, we had sent around letters to all the property owners to give us information
And I
that they
put 8
needed
feet.
on where they were and where that line was coming out of the basement.
Yeah, I put 8 feet and drew pictures.
Tracks.
And you're at 6 feet at the road.
Well, if that's true, we'll have to address that at the time.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an error, we'll address that, of course. It could be an error when it was put in too, but, you know, when we get there. Yes, sir.
Do you have a depth of each of the tie-ins for each address?
Yeah, we do. Actually, they marked down the stakes too. But I can get that list to publish
Okay,
it.
so they left a T at
They
the
left-
stake? or
Right,
one?
right underneath the stake where it's marked is PVC where the contractor or you will tie in for the sewer.
Do we have to get a clean out that sticks up too, or no? Like you guys
yeah.
put in on Twing Road?
Well, what we put on Twing Road, because it was so deep, because we had to put those sewer lines in, it behooves, I don't know what the regulations say on clean outs, but I think there's a requirement for a clean out cap.
Yeah,
I would think you would want it
requires one
anyhow,
At the right,
yeah.
at the right way.
Yeah.
Well, mine's in the driveway.
It's not good.
Oh, yeah, it's running it over.
Steve, can you remind everybody, or maybe get it on the website, the last time we had this town hall type meeting, you had people from the Department of Aging?
Yeah.
Or you could, if you qualify. it
If
will
you
help with the
qualify.
cost of tying in. I don't want anybody to forget that.
Right.
And if it's possible, maybe you could.
How many people in here bought their house in the last 3 years or so? Okay, so I would imagine some of this is new. But yeah, the website's very important to check. And we'll be posting more information on there. And at this point, we should be the link on what's happening. I know we'll be working, the commissioners will be working with, reviewing the ARPA and working with Mr. Walter and Mr. Hitchcock as we move forward here. Other questions? Yes,
Is
ma'am.
is there a tap-in fee?
That original 28 grand is basically your fee. The only other
Okay.
fee would be $300 for the permit and all that.
For what?
For the permit inspections. $300 more, yes, there's a permit. For the health department.
For them to walk around, another $300.
I'm still concerned about this time issue. I thought it was, we had a year to tie in once, Ohio Revised Code to tie in once the sewer came through. Now, I was told by somebody in the office on the phone that because of the lawsuits that we had incurred there, that it took up 5 months out of the 1-year program. So now we only have this buffer of 6 months.
6 months, yeah.
So now, let me finish, please. So now we have this time deadline of August 22nd. And what he put up out there on that thing was that if there's so much time for not tying in, that it's a 30-day pushback or whatnot. I'm concerned also about materials. I've tried to buy parts and stuff right now, it's difficult. Are you assuring that, or should I say, if we cannot obtain the material to comply with that timeline, what are the penalties going to be? Thank you.
I don't think you'll be condemned by any penalties for a timeline. because we're experiencing the same problem. That plant should have been done 8 months ago, but because of the constraints with the supply lines, we still haven't accepted it, and the clock doesn't start until the county accepts the plant and the sewer collection system from the contractor.
I thought that was on the 24th, sir, of February. Excuse me.
Was not accepted. There's still things that have to be completed. Because we don't want the county to accept some infrastructure that has to be repaired the month after we accept it. So there's a few things that track's gonna fin up. Plant's at least 98, maybe 99% done. That's mostly in the plant. Sewer collection systems set, the wet well where the force main pump, right on the south side is wing by the creek, that big apparatus you
Right.
see there. We have to have them come back and look at a few things there. Because we don't want, no one wants when you go to a faulty system. So until we can confirm that everything, we have like a 2-page punch list that they're going through now. And once that's done, Jerry and I and the construction inspectors will go out and then we'll officially take it over from the contractor.
Right now, you're probably looking at more of about 7 months from today would be that deadline. But certainly if.
But Jerry, the
there's
certified
if
mail said it was a hard line up to 22nd of August, isn't that correct?
I don't remember what the.
22nd of August, right there.
We have to set a deadline for people to make sure things get done. If there's justifiable reasons for it not getting done in that time frame, and this has happened with other sewer systems, where there was justifiable reasons for somebody not having it done in time, we've extended that deadline for that. Now, if you wait until, if let's use that August 24th date, if you wait till August 23rd to come in and pull your permit, so you're hoping you can get it done on August 24th, and for some reason you can't, that's probably not gonna be a justifiable reason. But if you pull your permit, say July 24th, and at that point, pipe is impossible to find, that would be a justifiable reason for us. Look, we're not gonna, we'll give you an extension on that.
Or contractor being able to be found.
Exactly, yeah. So I mean, if there's justifiable reasons, but you can have to set a deadline for people to have something to shoot for, to be done.
So I'm on the same page.
Yeah.
Once you guys finalize your
From what reason?
okay on your plan, that's when the 6 months starts.
That's when it's supposed to start, yes.
And there are, we do have a list of certified installers who, are registered and certified.
Is there a contractor in here?
Registered installers with the county we can give you. If you choose to do it yourself, then you have that option. If you have a cousin who is a contractor, who doesn't want, who would only do one job in Geauga County being yours, you can sign off saying you were doing it yourself. You're just responsible for making sure that contractor doesn't have problems.
So there is a contractor present. I know the last few meetings we've had, there have been up to 3 different contractors, so, I mean, I'm sure if you have anything to put back there, cards or brochures. Yes, ma'am?
Exactly are the permit fees, because before somebody said there wasn't any, now there is some, and if there is $300 per household, maybe we can take some of that money to lower the fees for that too, since we have to pay for the tie-in. You know what I'm saying?
I won't
So-
say yes or no.
Right, but I mean, how much are the fees and what permits?
It's
do you have to get?
$250 for the inspection and $50 for the permit right now, I think.
But if we have a certified plumber or, some contractor helping us with it, why does it still have to be $250? You know what I mean? You have to inspect it, but if it's certified and registered with the county, that's why you still need it inspected.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely you want it to be inspected before we close the trench.
Right, but if the person is one of the ones that does some of the inspections because they're certified, you still have to pay.
No, there'll be guys like Mike from my office that do the inspections, the certified. This is not your problem at all. No, what I'm going to say is not your problem, it's my problem. Oil is almost doubled.
Thank you, and listen to it.
Well, I'm not putting a surcharge on anything for increased fuel costs, all that, but I have to manage the whole county's budget for all the infrastructure we have. So it's starting to get tight. So when, about cutting permit costs and things like that, it really, really gets hard for us. Really hard at this time with what's going on. Well, I'm not close to any ideas. I mean, we've gotten a lot of emails from residents. And we get them, we track them, we put together the questionnaires and the ideas. We're talking also, mention about grants. For example, the Department of Aging was here, I think 2 meetings ago. So we're working with them as grants become open. Your neighborhood suffers in a way because of the way Ohio determines the median household income. How many of you have done the surveys we've sent out over the last 8 years? I think we've done 4 or 5. And we always fall short on meeting that threshold because the way the state requires us to figure it out, it's done per capita. So if you have a household with the dual income earners and children, that total income is 5 people. And then I have a widow or widower over here on Social Security, 1 person. Just the statistics don't work out. So we've tried it several times. Jerry's done it when he was running water resources, and we did it twice. It's just legislation that we can work towards changing, but in this instance, it doesn't help us right now. But there are grants, there are more coming open. Mr. Walter talked about the ARPA, and the commissioners are aware of ARPA. There are monies out there, but they're not just through water resources. Public health occasionally gets contacted by various agencies. The agencies I work with will contact me when there are grants coming out. Grants are great, but most of the time they want to give loans, low interest loans. Some people doesn't really help.
This system was mandated on a federal level through the EPA, and there's federal funds that are available. I think that they should be allocated for the project and not put off the homeowner.
The one thing, let's be clear about one thing though, folks, that we would have is that this.
To approve to take those funds to our project, right?
Yeah, it was pretty much a no-brainer.
So, Mr. Commissioner, how are you gonna vote for us, or what's it gonna take?
What are you gonna do? Why are we paying you?
I'll do the best I can to lobby with the other 2 commissioners
Why do
to
we need to
tap
lobby?
into some of the
Why do we need to lobby?
Well, you have to communicate. There's 2 other people as commissioners. I'm one, and I'm here.
Are you gonna have that meeting that Mr. Hitchcock talked about? An open meeting?
I'm for that, sure.
Okay.
I'm always for an open
Get
meeting.
the other 2 guys too, so we know who they are.
Right.
I'm 1/3.
Yeah, because the certified letter we received says 30 days, the check is due 30 days after the adoption of the resolution. I'm not clear of what the adoption of the
Resolution, it's county legislation that we passed, but we're going to wind up revisiting that.
I'd like to, yes.
Yeah.
But one thing we need to be clear about, this system that was put in was mandated by the EPA to be required. And it was mandated by the EPA to be required to be put in because of failing septic systems throughout the neighborhood that were causing sewage to run to the stream and contaminate the stream. So the other option that could have occurred if the EPA, because the county did try to fight the EPA on putting a septic system in, is everybody would have had to replace their septic systems on their lot. Your lots are all under current septic system standards. Your lots are all too small to have on-lot systems. You would have had discharging systems that would have run $20,000 to $25,000 each, that you would have had to pay for yourself. Go get a loan, get out of the bank, whatever. And on top of that, with the discharging septic systems, most of them have aeration with them, which means you have to have a blower that's powered by the electric that would probably double your electric costs each month for running those.
Not all the houses have.
air filtration systems and have paid all that money to have those systems put in. But we were never given the option to let our systems be tested, because it was appealed and taken down to Columbus and they voted against it. So we're replacing a system that the Geauga County Health Department had us put in. And we paid thousands and thousands, and we pay hundreds of dollars a year to have MAC systems come and inspect it. They inspected all and file papers with the health department, so we have a perfectly system that we have to replace, so.
Unfortunately,
And
that, I mean, that's not, that was not the county's decision.
Well, I will add another thing. I called the health department numerous times. I lived in this neighborhood my whole life. I called them numerous times about a septic. Smell, strong odor on Henny Drive down towards Quays, and no one ever looked into it or did anything about it.
Why weren't all the systems tested?
Yeah.
Find out where the problem was.
Because the EPA rules, the Ohio Revised Code, the language was not permitted to go determine individual ones because they would have all been replaced with offline systems. This is under the current rules.
What do you guys do with the common tile for the development that you guys haven't done anything with for years?
At this time,
You guys don't know what's tied into it, you never cambered it, you never jetted it. When you did jet it, you got EPA there to get cambered. That water's been stagnant for a year.
Hey, can we hold it down, please?
That was the township that made that decision. The township, that was a road department issue with the township, that was not the county. They broke the pipe. Sorry, I can tell.
Yeah, here's a lot of help. This is how they get out of dealing with the common tile difference problem. You don't
Well,
know
from what
what's
I understand with
tied
the common tile was put in by the
You don't even know what's
developer.
been there, you guys didn't find it until you broke it.
Say again?
You guys didn't even know it was there until you broke it and flooded my basement.
That's part of the problem. No one knows where this common tile is. It was never recorded.
Well,
And
is
that's
that our
added to the problem, how the
Yes.
department, how the neighborhood got in this situation.
That's on the easement, I don't see why that has to be our problem.
What's the timeline? That would be, sir, that would be something you would.
Right now, I was just asked about the timeline.
Folks, there's still
Right now,
questions being asked.
we're having a little hiatus because, we have some options. According, we're gonna look at that. So the commission's gonna need to discuss and look at what we could do with those ARPA funds that come from, Right now, as best I can tell you, that we will tell you when something happens, but the clock doesn't start until then. So it's been a little bit turmoil tonight, the opportunity to have. I updated the website. But it is important that the neighbors talk. Any other questions before?
If anybody else has any questions, come on up and ask.
What's the audit? Who's the auditor's office?
That's what I was thinking. So all it was when you give them that money, it was gonna lower that Okay, and that's what I was thinking. And I said, that way.
Excuse me, I got a question. I was told by someone When I read the letter for 28,000, the third date is that hard date of 22nd of August or whatever, since the adoption, which was the 24th of February. If you're paying a home loan, you have the option to add more to your principal against the interest every month. Right. I was told by somebody in your office that that's not going to be possible. You have to pay this money up front. I could pay 10 grand and then you're done. But I can't add 5 grand. Why is that? Can you answer me why that is? And you guys don't want to do that. That specific 187 or whatever. Unfortunately, that's the case. I understand.
There'll be no adder to your taxes, no assessment. Or we're just talking about, or will the project? Well, I was only given $3 million. They sent me the assessment. That was that $3 million. Whatever, I didn't know something $2 million. It's got to be, that's that's they're using grant money and some other money to do that. I just looked at the $3 million and I said, there's no reason why I can't show up with no assessment. We were just talking.